All right, how y'all doing this afternoon? I hope we are live and direct. I hope the sound is coming in nice and clear. We're gonna have to do a couple of sound checks. So while I do a sound check, let me see if I can get this working. If I share my screen, so we're gonna try to share this screen, and we're gonna open up with
Break it down with the
the
proper
theme song.
perspective.
How y'all doing out there?
So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And
If you
whose
watching
mouth
me
is
here,
mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
all right. So I'm live and direct here on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at the proper perspective. I am live right now on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at the proper perspective. I am also trying to go live on my Instagram page, on my TikTok page, and on my Facebook page. So I am in the process of hitting a lot of live buttons and hoping you bear with me if you are watching. I would ask that you please join me over here on my YouTube page. That's my only official live stream where you get everything. You can see me on my TikTok and on my Instagram, but you may not be able to hear everything. And when I share my screen, you will not be able to see what I'm sharing. So, again, if you are joining on TikTok, I do appreciate it, but I would ask that you come on over to youtube.com/ at the proper perspective so you can see the whole thing and you can join the chat. If you're on Instagram, I ask that you come on over, migrate on over to youtube.com/ at the proper perspective. But if you just decide to watch a little bit on the TikTok, the Facebook, or the Instagram page, then so be it. That's all. I'm good. So, what are we talking about today? Well, the title of the cast, the title of today's show, um, the subject is about borders and visas. I will say that the subject is about borders and visas. I've been in a couple of conversations with some people, interesting conversations, particularly about moving and traveling to Africa. More of the conversation has been about Ghana, but in general, it's moving and traveling to Africa, which is definitely something that is near and dear to my heart because I'm making plans not only to travel to Africa, but I am making plans to move. Have I visited several African countries? I am making in educated inquiries. I guess I would say as to which country will be my final destination, so to speak. So again, the conversations that I had were about that particular issue, and so in general, there is a lot of positive talk about moving to Africa or traveling to Africa, but there are some people, with every topic that gets shot out into the universe, you're gonna have some positive vibes coming off of it, and you're gonna have some negative vibes coming off of it. And I particularly chose to try to do this stream because I wanted to try and address some of the more negative issues. And sometimes it's not necessarily a negative issue, but it can come across as a negative issue. So one of the things that struck me is that some people, when they realize that, well, it's one, when they realize it's a good thing, it's a cool thing, it's an appropriate thing, that, or it's even manageable, it's doable to travel to Africa and move to Africa. Because a lot of times, coming up over here in the West, in the US, there's so much bad PR, there's so much bad publicity, there's so much negative stereotyping, and we know it as Black people over here. We know all about bad publicity and negative stereotypes, but a lot of times we only think about it from the perspective of what mainstream media puts out there about us. So we're painfully aware of how media will portray us in a negative light, but we're not necessarily that aware of how negative these, or rather, how inaccurate these same negative portrayals about other people, about other places, have been portrayed. And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to address, or at least bring up a little bit, because again, like, we may come from the standpoint of, y'all got to understand, we've been lied on, we've been lied about. And that's true. But what a lot of us don't understand is they've been lied on. So, you go to Mexico and you find out, oh, people do have jobs in Mexico. Like, the media will have us thinking that every Mexican is trying to flood over the border so they can get to America. You go to Mexico and you be like, wait a minute, it's like it's millions of people here and they living their life doing their own thing. So somebody ain't been telling the truth. And that same thing goes for like almost every country, or at least almost every country that's like dipped in melanin. You know, they don't put up such negative portrayals about England, about France, Germany. You know, they will create those negative stereotype depictions about Mexico, about Brazil, about Ghana, about Uganda, about Kenya. So, like, notice the pattern. So, again, one of the things I wanted to address was this idea that when you go other places, please be mindful that the same, especially as a Black American, especially as a, if you like the term foundational Black American, whatever, but coming from our community and our culture, be aware that just as much as we've been lied to, or lied to and lied about, others have been lied to and lied about. So that's why, you'll see all these videos now popping up on YouTube, and people are like, they're going over to these other countries and they're like, hey, y'all, it's nice over here. Yeah, because you were told that it's nothing but backwoods and villages. Yeah, that's what you were told. All the while, white folk was going over there because they knew what it really was. They'd go over there setting up businesses. They're going over there buying homes and telling you, don't go over there. So just that as part of it. But what I really wanted to drill down on is, traveling is expensive. It's not cheap. So not everybody can go. If you're not in a position to go, that's just another whole thing. But I'm not really talking about that particular thing. What I'm really talking about is, for those of us who can make such traveling plans, there's this little bit of a political thing where people will say, well, as African Americans, we should be able to go to Africa and not pay visas. Okay, I mean, there should be a conversation about that, I think. But I don't think that conversation is necessarily best aired out strictly in online forums. Now, yes, online forums are great for building awareness, and I would love to have that conversation. Obviously, clearly, I'm having that conversation right now. But what I would like for people who do get involved with this conversation, what I would like for people to think about is how we can network with each other, how we can come together and in a pan-African solidarity style movement, work together in order to create a resolution to this issue. Um, there's the feeling we have this feeling that we should not have to pay a visa, or pay a visa fee. And I would say, okay, now, but what are we going to do with this feeling? If all we're going to do is talk about it, and if all we're going to do is complain, then we're not working on fixing anything. We're not working on solutions and resolutions and solving stuff. If we really want there to be a visa-free process, then we're going to have to get together and work on getting that instituted. And so that means you're going to have to figure out, well, which government agency is in charge of visas, visa fees, visa requirements. You can't just throw it out in the universe and think your thoughts are going to somehow magically um, move the needle of some unknown bureaucrat, both in America and in whichever government office in an African country. So this idea, what I don't like is for people to just blah 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 blah. All you do, if all you're gonna do is yap about it, then you're not really helping the situation. So like I have been talking with people and trying to work together to create an organization that works on that. Now at the same time, I don't like it when we as Black people globally keep reinventing the wheel. And what do I mean by that? Well, for instance, even with this boycott that's being talked about, and there's people saying, the boycott is a good thing. There's people saying the boycott is a bad thing. There's people saying we should start it now. There's people saying we should wait 3 months and get it organized. There's people saying do it 100% full. There's people saying do it 50%. Like, okay, now some of the conversation is needed because you got to get everything worked out some kind of way. It's a shame we don't have any type of, I don't know, private mechanism, organization where we can all work in that chamber of conversation without airing out all of the dirty laundry completely online. But it is what it is. We exist the way we exist. But I'm really what I'm talking about that for is just this idea that we need to get ourselves in a position where we are not continuing to reinvent the wheel. We should have a well organized machine that works on boycotts so that everybody that wants to do a boycott, that's where you go. Like when it comes to like voting, everybody knows the NAACP is going to be probably like ground zero for getting out the vote or at least getting information out. Everybody knows Rock the Vote is going to work with a certain group of people. Everybody, so we have organizations with some things, but we don't have organizations with a lot of things, or rather, we have disparate organizations, and nobody seems to be able to work together. So what I'm saying is, if we're gonna have this conversation about visa fees, what we need to do is to figure out, well, first off, for instance, who put together the Come Back to Ghana movement? Who put together the Beyond the Return movement? And okay, you might want to say, maybe you could say, they didn't think it all the way through, but they were the only ones that thought about it. So I mean, yeah, hindsight is 2020, but that doesn't help. That doesn't do much. Like the idea is you hit the ground running with the best ideas that you have, and then over time you continue working on improving them. So if you want to improve the travel back and forward in whichever capacity that it's going to manifest, then rather than starting something brand new every time you get a new idea, look around, begin to make networking attempts, at least try to make some networking pop off so that you can work with people that's already doing certain things. So there are people that are working on um, um, tourism. There are people that are working on this whole, how do we get more, like, it strictly from a tourism perspective. There are people that's their job. How do we get more people to come to our country? America has a tourism industry. Jamaica has a tourism industry. Ghana has a tourism industry. Everybody has these industries. So rather than just sitting up and saying, well, we should get such and such, well, why don't you reach out to such and such? So that's part of what I wanted to, jump online and discuss with this particular issue. Now, if I can get to my other screen, I'm gonna share something. Let's see. And this is one of the things. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen because this is one of the points that I'm trying to make. When you talk to the right people, you get better results. So if I share my screen, let's see. And I go on over here. Now, again, if you are watching me on TikTok or Instagram, you cannot see what I'm getting ready to share. So maybe you can hear it, and maybe you can't. Let me see if I can put this over here the right way. All right. So now we get this screen getting ready to be shared. There we go. Share the screen. Now, who is this? All right, so here we go with the listener.
And my friends who visit me in Ghana often tell me that it's too expensive to be in hotel rooms in Ghana. And I think this is a point that my respected colleague Yabuama had earlier asked you to express a view on. They also tell me about the cost of our visa.
The cost of our visa.
The cost of our visa. At one point, a business friend in Spain told me why he spent holidays in Morocco rather than.
So if you can't hear it because you're listening on Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, etc., whatever, I'm gonna pause it for a second just to let you know what he was saying. He was saying that this is the let me see, who is this speaker? This is, oh, I can't get his name up. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I take these off. Okay, so this is Alexander Arenfo Markin, ranking member of the appointments committee in Ghana. This is a high level government official. And what he's bringing up is this question of couple of things, but very specifically Ghana's visas. And he says what he is being told by some of his friends, what he is being told by some of his business partners. So he's discussing people who come to Ghana just as pure enjoyment, fun time, vacation tourism. And he's discussing people who come to Ghana with business interests. And he's saying what he has been told is a lot of people who want to come to Ghana will opt for Morocco. Why? Well, I wouldn't be playing it if it wasn't related to the subject that I said. He's saying because, interestingly enough, Morocco does not charge a visa fee. So there are people who will say, well, I would go to Ghana, but that visa fee, like if my only idea is to get any experience, any continent of Africa experience I possibly can. Well, if I go to Ghana, I'm paying 150, I'm paying 200, I'm paying $300 extra. I can go to Morocco and I don't have to pay that extra. So from that position, from that standpoint, that's revenue that the country is missing because they have a Ghana fee. But this is a person in the government who's bringing this up during government meetings. This is way more effective than just getting on YouTube and saying they make us pay a visa. So again, my point is, if we're gonna have this conversation, let's have this conversation in a manner where it can be helpful to the whole group, where it can be helpful to the cause, not just to be complaining. You know, there was somebody who had said once before, if all you do, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution for the problem. Otherwise, like one of my supervisors used to tell me that all the time. Like, I don't care what the problem is. I may already know that there is a problem. I knew it before you. But if all you're going to do is come talk to me about that, get out my office. Give me an idea for a solution, and then we can move forward. But I'm going to go ahead and play the rest of it. So again, if you're on YouTube, you can see the screen. If you're on, I would just say, please come on over to YouTube and join the chat and et cetera, but what have you. So here we go.
And Ghana. And he said, well, the visa, whatever the application process and everything, hotel tickets for 1 week was costing him about 660 euros. Whereas if he had elected to be in Ghana, it was going to cost him perhaps 4 or 5 times more.
4 or 5 times more.
First,
that was the first thing.
What would you do to address the visa situation, the cost of visa? At least for now, for African countries, they don't need to apply for Ghanaian visas as a result of the President Akufo-Addo's, was it an executive? Well, he gave a directive. I've not pursued the legal bit of it, but at least President Akufo-Addo made that declaration. So those from the European countries, the Americas, and countries outside of Africa, what would you do to see to this situation?
So again, he's asking, this is a government committee, and he's asking the question, and he's presenting the situation. There are people who would choose to go to Ghana, but the visa fee is 4 or 5 times the amount of other African countries. So we're clearly losing tourist revenue. So when you have a country that, like, all countries have some element of some percentage where they depend on tourism. Some countries are more. You know, when you are if you're in the first world, if you're one of the Western countries, if you're one of the global North countries, then your dependency on tourism may be a little less, but it's still there, it's still needed. If you're in the global South, your dependency on tourism may be a little bit higher. Either way, all countries want, need, and rely on the tourism revenue that they garner. So what he's saying is, in whatever percentage that falls upon Ghana, it could be a lot higher if we take some steps to address this visa situation. We have people from several European countries. We have people from several Western Hemispheric countries, Canada, America, Jamaica, etc., that would opt to come to Ghana, but our fees are 4 or 5 times higher than other African countries. We're losing revenue. So again, it's an interesting video because it shows that there are people who are looking at the visa issue. Now, they may not be looking at it from the angle that you personally want. If you say, well, I'm a child of Africa because, like Kwame Nkrumah said, you're not a child of Africa because you was born there, but Africa was born in you, then yes, we do have a birthright to the continent. But we don't exist. We cannot afford to operate as if everything about that comment, that ideology is made manifest. That's an idea. He was dethroned. He was overthrown. There was a coup in the country to get rid of him, in part because of that idea. So it's not like it's going to be made 100% manifest today when the European powers made sure that they were either going to kill him or at least overthrow him just for having that idea. So you can't just say, well, it's got to be made manifest and expect it. No, it's on us to work for it. It's on our generations today to work for it and make sure that it gets put into place. And we can't get it put into place if all we're going to do is make nasty videos on YouTube and other social media platforms. So what I'm saying is, again, if you are watching, if you're in the chat or what have you, leave me a note, leave me a message, because I am having conversations with people and we are trying to say, okay, here's something we can do. We can set up an organization or at least work together and collaborate until we get to a point where we can set up the organization. But so I'm just saying, we have this minister who is working on or trying to discuss the idea of working on changing the visa system. So that's one. I'm gonna stop sharing screen and just say that. Let me see. I'm gonna ask. Let me see. We'll put this into the chat room. African Americans. No. Do you think Africans in the diaspora should have to pay a visa fee to go to Africa? So there's a question that I'm putting in the YouTube chat. Clearly, you can hear me if you're on everything else, so you can answer it any way you want to over there. Do you think Africans in the diaspora, and I say it that way because I'm not trying to simply talk about the Africans under the dominion of Uncle Sam. Yes, African American is a term that to some extent got coined by those of us under the dominion of Uncle Sam, but especially with all of the hype and hoopla of Tariq Nasheedites and Foundational Black American and ADOS, they're trying to relinquish the term anyhow. So if they're trying to relinquish the term, I can clearly say, just as Malcolm X said in the 60s, an African American is an African who lives in the West. So if you live in Canada and you are a Black person, you're an African American. If you live in Mexico or Jamaica, you are technically an African American. If you live in Brazil, if you live on the South American continent and you are Black, or at least and you are Black and you are there as a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade, you are an African American. Now, granted, that's the generic definition, but let's not try to act as though any one term can only have one definition. You look in the dictionary and almost every word that you see, whether it's politically charged or not, has 4 and 5 different definitions. So, let's not be infantile with this idea that we need a new name because African American applies to everybody. I mean, if you got a kindergarten mind, hey, it is what it is. But so again, the thing I'm trying to talk about is the visa fees. And I specifically want to connect it to the borders. Now, why do I want to connect it to the borders? Because I would say whether you're a Pan-Africanist or not, and you don't have to be, whether you're in the West or you're on the continent, you don't have to be a Pan-Africanist. But there are people, there are continental Africans, whether they are Pan-African or not, whether they have an understanding and awareness of Pan-Africanism or not. Because again, it's not like it's something that's taught to everybody. So you have people who are on the continent and they have experienced the visa problem. They've experienced difficulties, challenges, logistically and financially, from going to or traveling in between, going from one country to the next. And so I say, now, if they have a problem, if they're being asked, if a Ghanaian is being asked to pay a visa fee to go to Nigeria, you can't be serious in thinking you wouldn't be asked to pay a fee. If continentals are being asked to pay a fee, of course non-continentals would be asked to pay a fee. So again, if the basic idea, if in general most countries are requiring citizens of other countries to pay a visa fee, then to act, to behave, to think as though you're not going to be, or you shouldn't be, required to pay a visa fee, that's a little problematic for me. Again, I'm very much in favor of eliminating the visa fee, especially, or at least, well, especially for Africans. And I say it that way because I mean all Africans. If you're a Ghanaian, you shouldn't have to pay a fee to go to Nigeria. If you're a Nigerian, you shouldn't have to pay a fee to go to South Africa. If you're a South African, you shouldn't have to pay a fee to go to Botswana. If you're an African in the diaspora, whether you live in New Papua, New Guinea, or the disunited snakes of America, you shouldn't have to pay a fee to go to Ghana or Nigeria or Botswana. But that is something that can only be worked out in time. That is not something that can be worked out in an instant, and it can't be worked out just talking online. You have to set up an organization that's going to work on that. You have to be able to lobby the people who make those changes. And so I'm asking anyone that's interested, I'll help work on such lobbying issues or campaigning any way that I can. If you holler at me, but I don't want to hear people just complaining. So again, now what do I mean by borders? There are Africans that have said, look, they're having at conferences, they'll have a conference with leaders of all nations. And at the conference, they're saying, so we got to do something about these borders. So again, it behooves us as Africans of the diaspora to locate the people who are interested in changing the visa requirements and work with them. So again, I'm gonna share my screen. So that I can play this video. Let me see. So share my screen.
You have previously complained about the difficulty of traveling on a Nigerian passport across the continent. Has it become easier?
Even now, if you can't see, hopefully you can hear it. If you can't see, this is a brother named Larry Madowo, but he's interviewing one of the continent's most famous, popular businessmen today, whose last name is Dangote. If you don't know who Dangote is, you should look him up. He is a billionaire who works in cement and construction related industries. So he's interviewing him because he's on record as to say, look, I'm a person, at least in a business sense, I'm a person that travels the continent on a regular basis. And I have experienced the issue of these borders and these visas. So again, now I'm gonna shut up and just play it so you can hear him.
An hour ago, I complained to President Kagame.
He says, an hour ago, I just complained to President Kagame.
At least you can come here visa-free.
No, here is a best example, but I told him that, yes, as an investor, as somebody who really wants to make Africa great, I have to now apply 35 different visas on my passport. And I told Mr. President, I said, Mr. President, I really don't have the time to go and be dropping my passports in embassies.
See, again, again, he is discussing business ventures, but, you know, his point is, in his business, he's been in the process of having to travel across 35 African countries. And he had to go through the visa requirements for almost all 35 of them. And he's now, okay, monetarily wise, maybe that's not an issue. He's a billionaire. But logistics wise, if he's got to jump through all those hoops and hurdles, eventually something is going to fall to the wayside, or at least be very problematic for him to conduct business that way. So again, what he would need, what he's doing, he's doing his part. He can't make a government change its rules. He can lobby, he can discuss, he can have a meeting, and in so doing that, begin to work on changing people's minds, which is what I want us to do. Rather than just talk about it, I want us to find out which organizations, like for instance, there is an organization in Ghana, the Association of African Americans in Ghana. I don't know what they do. Maybe I should, but I haven't made the move to Ghana, so I haven't been fully educated about it. But I've heard of them and I've looked into them, and they are an organization, just as the name says, of African Americans who live in Ghana, and they work on various issues. The last time I was in Ghana, they were having a meeting, but my schedule conflicted with their meeting, so I couldn't attend the meeting. So I haven't had a chance to meet anybody, but I've heard some things about it. I've heard some good, I've heard some bad, but I'm not here to I'm not here to dirtbag anybody, because I understand that there's going to be good and bad with everything that comes along, as long as humans are involved. So again, but that's a good organization to say, hey, look, here's a collective of X number of people, and we want to piggyback on, I should say, we want to veggie back on a conversation and a discussion on how to improve this particular issue, this visa issue. Because not only are we suffering from it, we're suffering from it as non-continentals who have heritage, blood ties, links, and roots on the continent, but continentals are suffering from it. So you're hurting yourself, you're shooting yourself in the foot two times. So again, now I'm gonna finish playing on Dangote.
To get a visa. But you see, the most annoying thing is that, yes, if you are treating everybody the same, then I can understand. You know, I can assure you, Patrick doesn't need 35 visas.
Now, this is a good point that he makes. He says he can understand, even if he has to pay 35 different visa fees, he can understand it if everybody was being treated the same. But then he says, I'm pretty sure, whatever the guy's name is, Pierre or something like that, he was like, but I'm pretty sure Pierre doesn't. Now, this is one of the problems that we always run into in Black population groups. We are always a little bit, sometimes not a little bit, but a little bit harder on ourselves than we are the melanated challenged folk. And so he goes on to say, I'm gonna play it.
No, I said that. What I'm saying, you have.
You do not. You don't need 35 visas on a French
You
passport
don't
compared to a
need
Nigerian passport.
35 visas on French passport.
No.
But so which means you have a freer movement than myself in Africa.
Yeah.
So he says you don't need 35 visas on your French passport, which means you have freer movement than I do, and I'm an African. Now again, so this is it's a very good thing to point out, but it's also very interesting to note that one of the reasons Pierre, as a French person, doesn't need all of those visas is in two part. One is because of the scramble for Africa that happened in the 1800s. Because of colonization, the colonizers were keen on setting up the systems and the rules. So France is going to make sure that because they have what we call Francophone Africa, so those are all of the former colonies of France. So even though they have their independence, and to some extent, we can have a conversation as to how independent they are. If you've been following the news, then you know that Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, and I forget the brother's first name, but President Goita, I believe, in Mali, and I don't know the Niger president's name, but the Sahelian states have been breaking away from France, and they are currently, I just saw something else, they are currently working on as many systems as they can to or as many ways to debunk or as many ways to break down the French colonial rules and set up their own. So for instance, the Sahelian states are setting up their own passport so that at least within those three countries, they can travel Pan-African style amongst themselves without having to pay those visas. And ECOWAS was supposed to be working on that. How effective ECOWAS has been is anybody's grab. There's always some positive and there's always some negative, especially when you have the former colonial powers creeping around the agencies and organizations. And to some extent, I dare say that's the reason why Africans, especially on the continent, have to deal with the visas. I also say it has a lot to do with why Africans in the West have to pay visas. So but it's a matter of raising the consciousness of everyone. Once you hit the right button and you get that zeitgeist going, everybody's going to start to wake up a little bit more and realize, hey, here are the things that we need to change.
But you have, I remember that there are 3 countries, Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda. You have 1 visa for the free when you are a tourist.
This is true.
I've done it.
So even he says he remembers Uganda, Kenya, and I forgot what the third one was that he said. They set up their own 3-way travel system. So again, you have countries where they realize and recognize that we need to be more Pan-Africanistic in our thinking, and we need to get rid of some of these visa fees. But I guarantee you, they didn't go to those changes because somebody was simply sitting on YouTube. They went through those changes because somebody walked into those government offices and said, yo, we need to talk. Let's look at these numbers. Let's look at the people. So that's what I'm saying for anybody that's into this argument, this conversation. The real trick is not blabbing about it on YouTube, but meeting people on the ground.
So it's good. So you can expand it. It's a question of will. But I think all what is moving on about community between Africa, it's up to the African leaders to decide, will be good for Africa.
Yes, but it will change. And what I keep saying,
and then go to,
right now, our main job is to make sure the regional markets, they all work.
And he said the main goal right now is to make sure the regional markets, they all work. What he means by regional markets is just like what I was referring to with ECOWAS and the Sahel region now. So ECOWAS, as long as it stays intact, ECOWAS's job focus would be to try and, like, they can't eliminate the borders across the entire continent. What they're supposed to do is take each region and figure out how each region can collapse the borders in certain ways so that visa fees are eliminated or at least greatly reduced. And then once it's worked out in a perfect mechanism, so to speak, in that area, and then this other area, the northern region does it, and the eastern region does it, the southern region does it. Once all regions have done it, then they can go to full continent. But it has to work in the region first.
Okay. Once they work, then we can now go to AFCTA. But the AFCTA also, we need to make sure that it works. We cannot have a very, very promising continent, and our intra-trade is less than 16%. Okay, so we Africans will have to do it. If we are waiting for foreigners to come and do it, both the development of Africa, it's not going to happen. So it can only happen by us Africans. We must risk our resources and make sure that we lead. Then we will have people who actually trust and believe in Africa, like Patrick, to come and help us to push to the next level.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. On a point of personal privilege, because I have the microphone, I complained recently about Nigeria requires me to pay $215 for a single entry 1 month visa.
Now, again, I'm pausing just to make sure I'm now getting to the section where the host of this African forum is saying, okay, here's my personal experience. He's a Kenyan, and he's saying in order for him to travel to Nigeria, he has to pay $215 for the visa. So again, what I'm saying is, if African Americans, if African Canadians, if Africans in Jamaica, if we want the opportunity to travel to and through Africa without having to pay visa fees, one of the things we need to do is work with the people on the continent who can effect this change. I would dare say we also need to work with the people in our respective countries, because at the end of the day, it's got to be a two-way street. But so the Kenyan guy who's the host of this forum is saying he's stuck with paying $215 for him to leave Kenya and go to Nigeria.
Every time. Biometrics is $170. And I said, as an African, as a Kenyan, this seems unfair. And they told me, actually, Kenya said it would be easier to come to Kenya. But then you introduced an electronic travel authorization, which made it harder to come to Kenya. So I was like, I don't work for government, but President Ruto is here, so he's heard.
Okay. Babadawo, let me...
And see, he was bold enough at the conference to put it to his own president, because his president was in the audience. So again, for me, I'm like I said, let me stop sharing my screen. So like I said, the idea is, yes, we should be able to avoid these visa fees, but we can't avoid the visa fees simply by talking about it. We're going to have to work together. And I'm going to bring at least one more. Let me see if I can get this one up for the screen. I don't know if I need to share it or not, but this is the last thing. What I wanted to do is, let's say, so if you say, look, I ain't got to work on nothing. I just, if I ain't going, if they gonna make us pay a fee, I ain't going. All right, cool. That's you. But I'm gonna at least say this. There's anywhere between 9 and 13 African countries that don't require visas for Africans under the dominion of the United Snakes of America. And so so Namibia, Morocco, Cape Verde, South Africa, Senegal, Mauritius, Lesotho, Eswatini, Equatorial Guinea, the Central African Republic, Sao Tome and Principe, Botswana, and Seychelles are all listed. Now, we'll say, and I don't know how accurate this information is. I tried to verify it. I got a couple of conflicting things. So, you got to go through each country's official embassy and tourism website to get a complete, up-to-date information. Because I did find, for instance, one country is changing theirs this year in April. So right now, I think it was Namibia. You can go to Namibia for no visa fees if you live in the United States, or rather, if you have a United States passport. But come April, that's going to go away. But again, my point is, there's plenty of African countries you can go to and visit where you don't have to pay a visa fee, or if you're paying a visa fee, you're paying a nominal one. Egypt charges like 10, or I forget, it's either $10 or $20. So you can go to Egypt and pay no more than $20, and you can pay for it right there on the spot. You don't have to go through the whole visa application process of sending off your passport and filling out papers and sending off pictures and waiting and for the thing to come back to you in the mail. With Egypt, you just, as soon as you show up, welcome, $10, enjoy. So again, there's plenty of countries where either there's no visa fee, or the visa fee is minimum at best. So I wanted to at least, let that be known for people who are considering the trip and the travel, but you don't want to pay the visa fee. Hey, I don't want to pay the visa fee. I've been to Ghana 2-3 times, and I had to pay the visa fee. And it is one of the things that made me start to think, well, look, since there are other countries that would allow me to visit, would welcome me to visit, and would have asked me as a child of slavery to return. Okay, that's how Senegal got me. To some extent, that's how I had other reasons for going to Egypt also. But so again, you don't have to only visit Ghana just because Ghana was the most, I don't know, popular, just because Ghana was the most consistent or well-known country that said come back home or come and visit. Other countries have said it too, but they just don't, like, they can't break through. It's just like anything else. If you don't have the right media push, if you don't know where to put that information, there's been African dignitaries at the UN saying we want African Americans to return. ABC News wouldn't let that play. NBC News didn't play that. CNN said, mum's the word. We ain't putting that out there. So there's plenty of times when there's countries that have said, come back. There's plenty of times when there's countries that have said, we're sorry for what happened. Because again, and I only say that because you got a certain group of people that's like, they don't like us. They sold us in the first place. I'm like, I want to say grow up. I want to say learn your history, because it gets way deeper than that. And I would say, for instance, like, would you say the same thing about Black people over here who sell drugs? You say, well, they don't like the rest of us. And that's in real time. That ain't 400 years ago. But anyhow, I'm not trying to jump off onto that. Again, I wanted to take a moment to do this live about the people who discuss visa fees, but then they don't, like I said, discussing it is one thing. But if you really want to change it, then we got to work together to talk to the right people. So, again, the Association of African Americans in Ghana would be one group where we could build and network and say, okay, well, how do we get the politics of this to start working on it? I do got somebody in the chat. That's cool. I would say, let me see now, if anybody else is listening, again, if you're on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, feel free to come on over to youtube.com/@the-proper-perspective, and we can continue building on this topic, or if I could, I might would entertain a couple of other issues. But if you are here, let me see. I'm gonna share my screen one more time. If you've been tuning in before, I try to remember to ask you to hit the like button, to hit the notifications, to sub, to leave comments. Stay tuned for more so that you can get the notifications when I do go live and when I post up even my pre-recorded content. I am a new channel, so I am working on quite a few different avenues and levels and methods and styles of everything to get everything in order. So again, one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen one more again. I'm gonna share my screen again, just to do a little bit of what would I call this? I'm gonna share my screen for a shameless plug, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave a comment. I will leave a link in my description, but I'm gonna share one of my online stores since I am a new channel and I do have other ventures that I'm pursuing. I'm trying to tie everything together. So I usually say this: I am a Pan-Africanist, but my Pan-Africanism doesn't mean I am anti any other positive Black movement, perhaps with the exception of the ADOS and FBA. But so I have this page that I have created, and I will leave a link. Um, this is a Black powered page. So the name of my shop on Teespring is Black Powered, and I will leave a link in the description and in the chat some kind of way. But you can see that I have several different types of shirts. My latest one is the period shirt that a couple of people said they think was cool. I got my pro-Black heroes, and you can get it in blue, you can get it in black, you can get it in burgundy, and you can get it in white. I particularly like the burgundy and the black myself, but anyhow, so that's one of my designs. But you can float on over there if you so desire and show me some love with the if you really feel like showing me some kind of appreciation, then buy one of my shirts. Or share my page with somebody else. Like, share, and subscribe. That's the phrase. Like, share, and subscribe. So let me go on back to where I was. Okay. So again, so I'm just playing around a little bit with showing off some of my designs. My RBG Heroes shirt, my RBG Black Leaders shirt. I say defend like Huey, write like Fanon, Harambe like Kenyatta, train like Nyerere, lead like Sankara, travel like Dr. Ben. I love to travel like Dr. Ben, teach like Padmore, and research like Kwesi. And if you don't know who those people are, please try to look them up, because these are definitely some of the giants in pro-Black, Pan-African, Afrocentric, and Africana studies. So again, like I said, I'm just doing a little shameful plug to let people know that you can support my channel by liking, sharing, subscribing, and purchasing any of my designs. So with that, I'm going to stop the share. If there's anybody else that wants to leave a comment, do you think African Americans should have to pay a visa fee to go to Africa? If you want to leave a comment, I'll give you a shout out, or we can continue building on it. If not, I will probably close out this session. I do have two other shows that I'm trying to organize and set up for, so those will be coming. So again, I would like for you to hit the like button, share, subscribe, so that you can get the notice when I come back for the next show. The United States of Africa TV is in the house, and he says no, African Americans should not have to pay a visa fee. As I said at the beginning and all throughout my show, I agree that we should not have to pay a visa fee. But I would also, I have to say that we do have a responsibility to work and network and build and campaign and organize so that we can talk to, we'll put ourselves in a position where we can talk to the right people so that the right people can make that change, because every country has a different set of laws and written in a different way. So every country is going to have to figure out how to change those laws. I believe that there should be a diaspora passport. I believe there should be a diaspora passport. And that diaspora passport should nullify the visa requirement for those who are children of Africa in the diaspora. The African Union, the United States of Africa TV, has just said the African Americans are sixth region in Africa according to the African Union. This is true. This is a fact, and this is very much something that needs to be enhanced. It took a while, but they did finally come out with the sixth region of the African Union, and that is the African diaspora. So that is us under the dominion of the United States, and it is also Africans in Canada, Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in Central and South America. We are all considered region number 6 or zone number 6 of the African continent, the diaspora. So if we work together through the African Union, we could make some progress on creating a 6th region diaspora passport. But we can't get there just complaining on YouTube and saying they shouldn't be charging us. We got to put some work in. So I'm calling for anybody and everybody that wants to work on this. Let's build, let's work. Let's get together. We can get together on YouTube and talk about it. But even after we talk about it on YouTube, we got to put some pen to paper and we got to have some sit down conversations. So we can go to the African Union, but we can go to the embassies in our countries and have some conversation. I just want us to be in a position where that's what we do. I want us to be in a position where we are positively working together in order to get it and not simply complaining. So again, that's my point. My point is let's build, let's work together to get it done. Yes, and the United States of Africa TV says, yeah, people have to people have to get involved in political parties to get it. This is true. You know, again, if we all are living in a world that is set up by those of the European persuasion. So the visa itself is something that was set up to some extent. I won't say it was directly, but it was at least indirectly set up during or as a part of the scramble for Africa. And as long as all of these systems that we have in place today are still systems that descend from colonization and slavery, we have to work at changing them. We can't just wish they wasn't there. That's the thought process of a child. That's not the thought process of sober, mature individuals. And that's who we are. We are sober, mature individuals. Sometimes we get stuck. And so I just want us to get unstuck. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. I have not mastered this whole going live thing. So the United States of Africa TV said, can I share for people to join your live? I am still working on right now. I'll be honest with you. I am going live directly through YouTube. And all I can do is share so that people can watch. I have to get. I know it's a couple of I do know about StreamYard, and I do know about some other it's a several out there. I just haven't even the Zoom, I just haven't gotten to the point where I can get everything working through one of those. But if I don't get it done, um I'm working on some things for this weekend. So if I don't get it done by the end of, I know, and I ain't got but like, well, no, I would say this. My best prediction is before the end of February. I'm trying to get some stuff done inside the first week of February, and then I will be able to go live with StreamYard or whatever, or Zoom, and have people um sharing the link and coming on at the same time. I just don't have that capability right now. So for that, I am regrettable. It is regrettable that I don't. People will be able to join. Okay, so if I say, okay, well, let me see something. So if I just share the link and people will be able to join, that's why I'm saying, okay, so I'll share this link and let's see if this works, then that's fine. But I didn't think that this worked. I thought this allows you to join the chat and watch the stream. Let's see, share screen. That's the share button. I have an edit button. Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, to my knowledge, I've always been told to have people join the live moderation activity timestamps, pop out chart. I should have had timestamps on. That would have been better. Participants. Participants. It's not giving me anything on the participant side of things. Community moderation. That's not giving me anything. That's moderators. That's not allowing. Yeah, like I said, I really want to share the part that's say share the part that says invite. Share screen. No, not that. Pop out dashboard. Send feedback. In stream. Edit. Details. Customization. Who can participate? Anyone, subscribers, live commentary. Only the people approved for your channel can send messages during your stream or premiere. Anyone watching can read them. Okay. Add approved users. Let's see. Well, like I said, I am looking at some things and I am not able to find share the part that says invite. I don't even see that, bro. I'm assuming you a bro. If you're a sister, my apologies. I don't see that, sis. But the United States of Africa TV, I don't see a part. You have everything. You just need to play with it to understand it. Okay, I will continue working on it because the only thing I see a participants page and I see the edit button. Let me see. Let me ask a question real quick. They cannot join your live video. Yeah. Unless you use Okay, so what I'm seeing is the participant link. Try to share that and see the participant link. The participant link, it's not a link. It just says who's participating. And I did not see a go live together. I looked online and there was something about a go live together feature. Google said there was something about a go live together feature that you have to use, but I don't see that anywhere. Live chat, live replay, reactions, live reactions, live commentary for approved users. The United States of Africa TV. What happens if I add you there? Live commentary, the United States of Africa TV. Now, settings saved. Okay, so live commentary mode on. Only viewers selected by the channel owner can send messages. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let me go back to edit and turn that off. Anyone? Live commentary mode off. So again, okay, so here's the deal. I will definitely have to do some more work to find the other part of the invite button. But what I'm gonna have to do right now is I'm gonna just have to I'll get off. My phone is about to die anyhow, so I'm gonna have to plug that up to get everything rocking and rolling. I do appreciate you for listening. I do hope that you like, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Please share. Please subscribe. I will be coming back again. Let's see. Probably sooner than you think. So what I'm gonna do now is, as I learn all of these different things, I'm gonna close out. I don't know if y'all can hear my dog or not, but he's being real loud. So I got other things I got to take care of as well. But I'm gonna close out. Let me share my screen, and I'm gonna close out with my theme song.
Break it down with the proper perspective.
Break it down with the proper perspective.
So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection. And whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz,
break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
Break it down with
the proper perspective. Peace, everybody.